Hey everybody, Rory from A&S Gear. I'm going to look at a tank today. This is the Empire Ultra F5. So these are their super light versions of their tanks. So the Ultra tank, or the Ultra, I want to call it an ultra light tank because that kind of starts to associate with some other tanks. But their Ultra tank, Ultra F5. So this is a 48, I believe, 48 cubic inch, 4,500 PSI, 5-year hydro. But it is super, super light. I love these tanks just because of how compact they're getting everything and how light they're getting everything. So back in the day when I played consistently all the time, I shot a 68 cubic inch bottle, carbon fiber, that was massive, had a giant reg on it, massive tank. Now you can get 77 inch or cubic inch bottles and 68s that are so small compared to those old ones. They're so comfortable and easy to shoot. And this is just another example of that kind of tank right here. So 48 cubic inch tank, comes with their standard regulator on it. It's just a basic regulator. It is adjustable. You can change the output pressure on it. So we'll open that up, I'll show you. But just to give you an idea of weight, is my scale on? It's not. Let's turn it on. All right. So what was that? 1 pound, 9 ounces. So just over 1.5 pounds. That's crazy light as far as tanks go. Definitely something to pick up right there. Let's find, hopefully I've got an Allen key sitting around here, which will undo this real quick. That's not the right size. Let's try this one. Nope. I gotta have one here. That seems too big. With all these ones I have sitting around here, you'd think I'd have the right one just ready to go. Let's try this one. Hey, look at that. So if you just remove the 2 set screws off the top here, you want to obviously make sure the tank is degassed, that it doesn't have any pressure in it. You don't want to pull these screws out and then take the bonnet off if the tank is under pressure. But we got nothing in there. We can push the valve down. Once we have those out, we can unscrew this off. And then we have 2 separate sections in here. We have our shim stack, or what they're going to call the Belleville washer stack, which is this piece right here. So this works as your spring. You've got these washers that are concave or convex, depending on how you want to look at them. And the way you stack them up, it creates a spring. So when this compresses or gets pressure on it, those compress together and work just like a spring. You've got a reg seat at the bottom here, 2 O-rings, one here and one here. I believe this is a 008 and a 012. They're both urethane, hard durometer. And then our spring and our pin right there. So this pin sticks up through the top, and that's what your ASA pushes against, and this spring just keeps it up. If you ever get a leak through the top right here, through this hole, bleeding out the top, there's an O-ring that looks quite like that. And it sits on the inside of the bonnet. This is called the bonnet, and it sits at the top right here. And the way this works is this pin goes through the O-ring like that, and it seals just like that against the top. The spring pushes it up and seals it up in there. And that's the only thing that keeps air from coming out the end of the tank. So there's always constantly air pushing against the back of this, not the back per se, but coming around this and trying to escape out of the top. And this post, this, I'm going to call it a pin here, sealing against this O-ring is what keeps that air from coming out. So if it ever leaks directly out of the top, this O-ring is the culprit right there. Seems like it should be more complicated than that, but it really isn't. All right, so that's what that looks like right there. So this is your spring stack. Now inside of here, you've got very thin shims. And this one actually only has 1 in there, but sometimes you'll find ones that have one thick one like this, and then a couple thin ones. And depending on how many shims are in there, you can change the output pressure of your tank. By removing shims, you'll drop the output pressure. By adding shims, you'll increase the output pressure. But it is finite. You can't like put a ton of shims in there and increase your output pressure to like 1500 PSI. It's not gonna work. It's just not meant for that. But by removing the shims, drop the pressure as far as it will go. Adding shims, increase the pressure as high as it will go to a point. And that's it. You just put the shim back in. Put our piston back in there. Make sure our spring is still in there. And then put our bonnet back on. And just make sure the pin goes out through the top of the bonnet. Now, one thing that I see happen a lot with all tanks is people neglect these screws. They don't tighten them down, they forget about them, they don't check them regularly. And what happens is this screw just goes in and it pushes down against the gas distribution block, which is this lower section of the regulator. They butt up against it and they keep this bonnet from rotating. If these back themselves up a little bit, they're still pushing against the block, but as you screw this in and out of a tank, this will rotate and you will start to grind the inside or the surface of that distribution block, and you'll create all sorts of metal shavings. They'll get all sorts of all over the place inside of there and cause problems. So periodically check these set screws and make sure that they are tight and that your bonnet is completely flush against the block. And that will solve or save you lots of problems down the road. But check this out. Super light bottles. Ultra F5 bottles from Empire. This is the 48 cubic inch version. 4,500 PSI, 5-year hydro. Available through the website. Order yours now through ansgear.com.